And a very good evening to all of you. Today we are going to have a session, a very important panel on education. But before I start, let me invite the panelists. We are very lucky that we have the most relevant people to speak on the issue of education. Let me invite Madam Shahnaz Wazir to the stage. Shahnaz Wazir is the president of Zabist, and she was also Minister of Education in the past, and a person who is really passionate about the field of education. Our next panelist is Dr. Tariq Rahman. Is he here? Okay. I think he'll be joining us soon. Can I ask Dr. Farid Panjwani, who is Dean, Institute of Educational Technology, Institute for Educational Development. And Dr. Farid Panjwani has got the DPhil degree from University of Oxford in Education. So welcome, Dr. Panjwani. And we also have Salma Alam, who is a practitioner. She is CEO of Durveen, and she's one person who worked with the World Bank, and she knows inside out, theoretically and practically. Salma Alam. I think Dr. Tariq Rahman is around, and he should be here any moment. So we can take a start. So welcome the panelists and welcome the audience. Today's session is very important because it's on education, and education is considered to be a very important factor in 21st century. Because now, when we call 21st century a century of knowledge, the concept of power is totally changed. Now it is no more linked with conservative weapons, but it's knowledge that defines power. And if we go back and look at Gramsci's work in his prison notebook, the concept of hegemony, how to control others, he talked about two approaches. One was through political society, where coercion or force is used by using army or police or brutal bureaucracy. And the other approach is through civil society, where force is not used, but where education, literature, language, and culture, they are used to dominate the minds. In other words, the first approach is coercive approach, and the second approach is discursive approach, where discourse is very important. And continuing with that, when Foucault talks about this knowledge-power nexus, he refers to a triangle that how power constructs a certain kind of discourse that leads to a certain kind of social reality, and that reality gives all the license to that power for all the actions. So I think it's very important to understand that the past view or concept of power is totally changed. Once Marx said that those who are in the possession of the sources of production are powerful. Now we can say that those who are in the possession of sources of production of knowledge, they are powerful. So I think this is a long debate, but let me come to Pakistan. What is happening in Pakistan in 21st century and where we are? Right from 1947, we are facing three very important challenges in the domain of education. The first challenge is that of access, that how many children can, can go to school. The second important challenge is that of quality, that those who can't reach school, what kind of quality they are exposed to. And the third challenge is that of relevance, that whatever is being taught, is it relevant to the needs of society or not? And before I ask the panelists, very quick, that right now in the domain of literacy, Pakistan is behind India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, except Afghanistan, we are in the lower rung. Similarly, in terms of allocation of funds, Pakistan is spending perhaps one of the lowest amount, 1.77 of the GDP for education. So this is the scenario, just as a backgrounder. Let me start with Madam Shahnaz Wazir Ali, because she has a vast experience in the domain of education. Talking about the issue of, access, that still Pakistan has 62.8% of literacy rate. So what do you think is, or could be, the role of private sector in meeting with challenge of access or enhancing the literacy?
Thank you, Dr. Shahid Siddiqui. I think you've given an introduction about the power and how power is exercised in a state. And I'm a firm believer that in the education sector, the political economy has dominated the decisions of the education sector. Now, what does that mean? How is the political economy dominated? And that is also related to the question of access. Political economy is controlled by the political elites of Pakistan, which is the military elite, the bureaucratic elite, the administrative elite, the business elite, and the agricultural elite, of which perhaps the business elite is the weakest because it doesn't usually exercise power. So this power defines what they want to do with Pakistan at every level. And it also determines whether they want to give equal access to all. Clearly, the figures in Pakistan, अगर हम अपने पूरे तालीमी निज़ाम का जायज़ा लें, तो आपको मालूम है कि इस वक्त तकरीबन 50% से कम बच्चे हैं जो कि स्कूल में हैं, क्योंकि जब आप ड्रॉप आउट रेट भी कैलकुलेट करें, जो कि दूसरी जमात, तीसरी जमात के बाद शुरू होता है और चलता जाता है, तो कई बहुत बड़ी तादाद में बच्चे हैं, 23 मिलियन के करीब जो स्कूल में ही नहीं हैं, और जो स्कूल में जाते हैं, ये एक्सेस की बात क्योंकि आपने यहाँ से शुरू की, वो बच्चे ना सेकेंडरी स्कूल जाते हैं और ना फिर हायर सेकेंडरी और यूनिवर्सिटी तो दूर की बात है। तो ये यकसा तालीम या यकसा निज़ाम क्यों नहीं मुहैया किया जाता? यकसा मौक़े, equal opportunities for all, हमारा आइन भी कहता है कि आइनी ज़िम्मेवारी है रियासत की कि वो हर एक बच्चे को आला दर्जे की तालीम दे। अब शेख 25A भी आ चुकी है हमारे आइन में कि every child should be from the age of 5 to 16 be given an education. This is the responsibility of the state. So before I address your question of the private sector and the role of the private sector in providing educational opportunities, I think we have to look at the role of the state, because it is the role of the state that is the primary role and responsibility which is defined in the Constitution. रियासत का काम है सबको तालीम देना, रियासत का काम है कि वो तालीमी निज़ाम इस तरह बनाए और उसको इस तरह मैनेज करे और उसकी फाइनेंसिंग और फंडिंग करे ताकि हर बच्चे को अच्छी तालीम मिले। ये प्राइवेट सेक्टर का काम नहीं है, क्योंकि रियासत मुकम्मल तौर पर नाकाम हो चुकी है, इसलिए प्राइवेट सेक्टर पाकिस्तान में मौजूद है। प्राइवेट सेक्टर में बहुत सारे ख़ानदान अपने बच्चों को भेजते हैं। ये वो ख़ानदान है ना सिर्फ जो अमीर तबके से ताल्लुक़ रखते हैं, लेकिन ये वो भी बहुत सारी ऐसे ख़ानदान हैं जो अपने पेट पर पत्थर बांध कर अपने बच्चे को प्राइवेट स्कूल में भेजते हैं, क्योंकि नज़दीक वाला जो स्कूल है सरकारी स्कूल, वो या तो बंद होता है, खाली होता है, ना उसमें कुर्सी, ना मेज़, ना पंखा, ना ब्लैक बोर्ड सही होता है, और ना आमतौर पे वहाँ पे टीचर कायम होती है। तो प्राइवेट सेक्टर पाकिस्तान में जब से तेज़ी से बढ़ा है, वो तकरीबन पिछले 35-40 साल में, और ख़ास तौर पर ख़ुसूसन पिछले 20 साल में, private sector has taken up the fundamental responsibility which the state has not fulfilled. Today, there are 47% of students in the private sector. So you can see how rapidly the private sector is growing. But if the state had provided this access that we are talking about, why would people not send their children to school? जितने बड़े बड़े ममालिक हैं और छोटे ममालिक भी जिन्होंने तरक्की की है और जो अपने शहरी के लिए और उनके बच्चों के लिए, शहरियों के लिए और बच्चों के लिए तालीम फराहम करते हैं, तालीम के सही मौक़े देते हैं, प्रोवाइड करते हैं स्कूल, कॉलेज, यूनिवर्सिटी, टेक्निकल इंस्टीट्यूट्स में, अगर अच्छी तालीम सरकारी निज़ाम दे तो वो क्यों 5,000, 3,000, 500, 700, 10-15 हज़ार रुपए क्यों पे करे प्राइवेट सेक्टर में? So I think the role of the private sector, I will stop there, we will perhaps come back to it. Just one more quick comment, and that is that it is not just access. It is not, सिर्फ ये रसाई की बात नहीं है कि स्कूल तक रसाई होनी चाहिए, ये मयार की भी बात है, क्वालिटी की भी बात है। अगर स्कूलों में क्वालिटी दी जाए तो फिर फैमिलीज़ बच्चों को भेजेंगी। कई दफ़ा स्कूल नज़दीक होता है लेकिन वहाँ पे फैमिलीज़ नहीं भेजते, बिकॉज क्वालिटी इज़ अ क्रिटिकल क्राइसिस एंड कैटास्ट्रफी इन पाकिस्तान।
ओके, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका। इसमें हम इंग्लिश में भी, उर्दू में भी, जो जिसका जी चाहे हम बात करें, और सवाल भी इसी तरह। डॉक्टर शहनाज वज़ीर अली साहबा ने बताया कि मयार के हवाले से हमने बात की। इस वक्त तकरीबन 2.5 करोड़ बच्चे जो हैं वो स्कूल की दहलीज तक नहीं पहुंच पा रहे, लेकिन जो बच्चे पहुंच पा रहे हैं उनके साथ क्या हो रहा है, और एक बड़ी तादाद जो है ड्रॉप आउट होती है, और पाकिस्तान इस लिहाज से दुनिया का दूसरा मुल्क है जिसमें हाईएस्ट ड्रॉप आउट रेट है। लेकिन वो बच्चे जो स्कूल तक पहुंच जाते हैं, स्कूल के अंदर आ जाते हैं, क्लासरूम में आ जाते हैं, तो सेकंड इम्पॉर्टेंट इशू क्वालिटी का है। व्हाट हैपन्स टू दोज स्टूडेंट्स, और फॉर दैट आई विल रिक्वेस्ट आवर पैनलिस्ट Salma, if you could talk about, based on your observations about this quality issue.
Thank you, Dr. Shahid. So I would like to start by grounding the conversation on quality in some research. Perhaps those of us who are from education may know this, but others won't. एक बच्चे की तालीम में actually we talk a lot in education circles about curriculum and teachers and school environments and all these things, but actually the main control over or main influence over a child's education is actually home factors. So माँ बाप की literacy levels, घर में nutrition की quality, घर में safe और secure environment, इन चीज़ों से सबसे बड़ा असर होता है एक बच्चे की तालीम पे। लेकिन obviously हम, because this is a forum on education, we will be focusing on the educational factors, of which again there are a multitude of them. Curriculum जो निसाब है हमारा, इस पे बहुत, especially in recent years we've heard a lot of debate around this. Resources, so resources में आपके textbooks आ जाते हैं, आपके learning aids आ जाते हैं, learning environment आता है, school का environment बहुत अहम है. Something as simple as the availability of toilets is a big reason why girls drop out from the education system. So, वसाइल ये बहुत अहमियत रखते हैं in things like retention and quality. And then last but not least, in fact I would say the most, which is this thing called teacher quality, और जिसको हम सब समझ सकते हैं because हम सब तालिब इल्म रह चुके हैं, So we know, I think if I ask everybody in the audience to pause and think about that one teacher that really inspired you and made you believe that, you're very good at something, or, you have to walk a certain career path. Or uska baraks bhi sochiye. One teacher that really convinced you that you're terrible at math or terrible at language or whatever, and really suppressed your potential. So we all know this anecdotally as well, that teachers matter. लेकिन अफसोस के साथ teacher quality पाकिस्तान में बहुत low है. And it's not very well researched, so I can't throw a lot of data into this conversation. But we know, for example, Madam Shahnaz ne baat ki about the private sector, we pay very inordinate fees for, does anybody ever, if you have children in an elite private school, jisko hum kehte hain, please walk in and ask your teachers, how many of the teachers are professionally qualified teachers? So in your elite schools, in all private schools for that matter, you're typically hired as a teacher if you possess a content degree. So if I've done a bachelor's or a master's in mathematics, I could walk into an elite private school and be hired as a mathematics teacher. But this is a very limited definition of what a teacher, the skills and knowledge that a teacher needs to have. So to give you, and I'll be wrapping up in a few seconds, Shahid Saab. A good professional teacher, of course, the subject expertise is important, but equally important in a different domain is what you call pedagogical knowledge. It's the ability to take your content and break it down to the level of your learner. And this is not something that you can just learn on the job. Sure, you can, maybe in 10 years, but do you really want to take that risk with the classroom of young minds? इसके अलावा classroom management एक और बहुत अहम चीज़ है. In fact, I would argue this is perhaps जो एक नई आपका टीचर आता है उसका सबसे बड़ा difficulty classroom management ही होता है. For those of us in the audience who have young kids, some days you just want to really bang your head on a wall, for lack of a better phrase. Imagine multiplying that into 30. So unless you have the tool and the skills to deal with 30 kids that age, there is no learning happening. फिर आपका आ जाता है, knowledge of assessment, knowledge of technology. My point is that teaching is a science, much like becoming a doctor is a science. हम as a माशरा ने decide किया हुआ है कि डॉक्टर एक 5 साल की MBBS डिग्री करके डॉक्टर बनेगा, लेकिन टीचर कोई भी बन सकता है. So these are, very important systemic things that we need to think about. It's not a one fixed solution, but teacher quality is at the heart of this debate. Thank you, Shahid Saab.
Thank you very much. And I think it's very important, as Salma pointed out, that quality is of two kinds. One is the physical side, the infrastructure, the furniture, the light arrangement, cooling and heating arrangement. And the other side of quality, which is more important, is the process of teaching and learning, where teacher becomes a very important player. Before I go to Dr. Farid Panjwani, let me introduce Dr. Tariq Rahman, who needs no introduction. Dr. Tariq Rahman is Dean of School of Liberal Arts in BNU, but I think that is not his real introduction. He's author of many books, and he's the pioneer researcher who talked about politics of language and education in Pakistan. So welcome, Dr. Tariq Rahman. I think it's very interesting that how, this conversation is connected. We talked about excess and then quality. Third very important challenge Pakistan is facing is that of relevance. The kind of stuff we are teaching, is it relevant to the societal needs or not? और इसमें आप देखते होंगे कि बहुत सारे और ख़बरें पढ़ते होंगे कि a number of graduates जो तालीम हासिल करके बाहर निकलते हैं, they are unemployed. So where is the problem? I think we have the best person to answer this question, Farid Panjwani Saab, because on the one hand he's got education from Oxford. On the other hand, he has business education, MBA as well. So, Dr. Farid Panjwani.
Thank you very much, Shahid Saab, for inviting on this panel and for giving the opportunity to share some thoughts. तीन चीज़ें आई वुड लाइक टू से. वन, मुझे लगता है कि हमारी ये जो मिसमैच है एजुकेशन और इकोनॉमिक नीड्स की, इसमें ये बात तो हमें क्लियर करनी चाहिए कि हमारे जो नौजवान हैं, जो तालिब इल्म हैं, उनका बहुत मामूली सा कसूर है अगर है तो. वो ना इकोनॉमी को कंट्रोल करते हैं ना एजुकेशन सिस्टम को. उनको जो मौके मिलते हैं उसके हिसाब से वो लेते हैं उसको और आगे चलते हैं. और फिर उनको कई दफ़ा एहसास होता है कि द path they chose doesn't really lead to the kind of careers and aspirations they had. इसमें जो दो चीज़ें मुझे लगता है बहुत अहम है, वो एक हमें क्वांटिटी को देखना होगा और एक क्वालिटी को. If I give you some numbers with regard to our higher education institutions, पाकिस्तान जब बना 1947 में तो we had about 2 or 3 universities. By 1990s we had 26 or 28 universities. The first private university was established in 1983. उस वक्त तक सिर्फ public universities थी. In 2000 we had about 59 universities. फिर Higher Education Commission बना. Today we have more than 240 universities. So in 20 years we added 160 universities of all kinds. इतना सीधा साधा प्रोसेस बना दिया यूनिवर्सिटी बनाने का कि हर एक यूनिवर्सिटीज़ बना लेता है, हर जगह बन जाती है. और फिर ऑफ कोर्स जब यूनिवर्सिटी बनती है तो बच्चे जाते हैं और हर तरह की शोबे चूज़ करते हैं. और यू कैन सी दैट दे आर स्टडिंग ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ फील्ड्स जिसकी ना कोई डिमांड है, ना कोई कभी सोचा कि इसका करियर क्या है, लेकिन एक डिग्री हासिल करना, जिसको 1970s में एक बुक ने कहा था डिग्री डिप्लोमा. ये डिजीज़ बन गया, डिप्लोमा डिजीज़ कहा था उस वक्त कि यू नीड इट. अब दिस इज़ द क्वेश्चन दैट वी नीड टू आस्क के वेयर इज़ द मैनेजमेंट एंड प्लानिंग दैट कोऑर्डिनेट्स द नीड्स ऑफ द इकोनॉमी एंड द एजुकेशन सिस्टम, द हायर एजुकेशन सिस्टम. जो आसान काम है वो तो हमने कर दिया कि यूनिवर्सिटीज़ खोल दी हर जगह हर तरह की, बट ये नहीं सोचा कि इस यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में किसको जाना चाहिए, क्या पढ़ने जाना चाहिए, मुल्क की नीड्स क्या है, उनको किस तरह से कैलिब्रेट करना चाहिए. दैट्स द क्वांटिटेटिव इशू दैट वी हैव एंड वी आर कंटिन्यूइंग. अब इसका फिर एक क्वालिटेटिव इशू भी आता है. जब आपने इतनी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ खोल दी, यू आर अनलाइकली टू गेट गुड क्वालिटी करिकुलम एंड गुड क्वालिटी फैकल्टी फॉर दीज मैनी यूनिवर्सिटीज़ इन सच अ शॉर्ट पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. तो आप क्या पढ़ाते हैं वहाँ पर, ये भी एक सवाल आ जाता है. तो आपने भी देखा होगा, हमने भी देखा है, जॉब्स होती भी हैं, लोग नहीं मिलते बिकॉज देयर इज़ अ मिसमैच. और जिस चीज़ में बच्चों ने पढ़ा है उसकी जॉब्स नहीं होती. सो देयर इज़ अ सीरियस मिसमैच बिटवीन व्हाट इज़ टॉट. और ये तो सिर्फ मैं एट द कैरियर लेवल बात कर रहा हूँ. If you then dig down into what we are teaching, whether it is in many places, some are oases, some are wonderful places, whether in medicine, IT, in business administration, there are some great places. But by and large, जब हम उनके करिकुलम को भी देखें, टीचिंग को देखें, तो there is a crisis of pedagogy and curriculum in every field. तो उसको भी देखने की ज़रूरी है. अब बहुत ज़्यादा चीज़ें चेंज हो गई हैं. जो मार्केट में डिमांड है, जॉब्स में डिमांड है, उसमें सॉफ्ट स्किल्स की बहुत डिमांड होती है, सर्टन पर्सनैलिटी एटीट्यूड्स की बहुत ज़्यादा डिमांड होती है. वो किस हद तक हम दे पाते हैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स को, ये भी क्वेश्चन है. सो मेरा ये ख्याल है टू कंक्लूड कि दिस इज़ अ प्रॉब्लम जिस पे बहुत सीरियसली देखने की ज़रूरत है, ख़ास तौर पे उस मुल्क में जहाँ देयर आर सो मेनी यंग पीपल एंड इकोनॉमिक अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ आर dwindling. And we might want to therefore think more about entrepreneurship, vocational education, and giving young people those capacities कि वो self-directed learning के through अपनी path एक entrepreneur के through खुद निकालने की कोशिश करें और नई opportunities create करें, क्योंकि अब वो global player होके खेल सकते हैं and they have those approaches. So हो सकता है बाद में we can talk more about it, but these were initial thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Panjwani. The theme of this, panel discussion is education policies in Pakistan, politics, projections, and practices. Basically, this was taken from my book published by OUP in 2016, and its second edition has come out last year. I think it's very interesting to see that we have a number of policy documents. The first important document came in 1947, Pakistan Education Conference. Then in 1959, the Commission on National Education, we call it Sharif Commission. 1969, Proposal for a New Education Policy. 1970, the New Education Policy. 1972, the Education Policy. 1979, National Education Policy and Implementation Program. 1992, National Education Policy. 1998, National Education Policy, and 2009, National Education Policy. So there are a number of education policies we have in Pakistan. What I tried to do is that I, collected all those policies from 1947 up to 2021, all those documents, including the latest on single national curriculum and, PhD policy. So when we're talking about single national curriculum, as I introduced Dr. Tariq Rahman, that he is the one who has started work in the domain of politics of language and education. So he is the right person to, I should ask this question: what is the politics of single national curriculum in Pakistan?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm very sorry for coming late. There's no good reason for the reason for coming late is not very noble, so I'm not going to talk about it, but very sorry. Okay, yes, this book, when it was revised and issued last year, then it also covered the SNC, Single National Curriculum. Achha, let's go back to the 1990s. Zubaida Afa बैठी हैं यहाँ, Zubaida Mustafa Sahiba. She has worked a lot on the medium of instruction, which should be the language of the child. I mean, I think she is known for that and icon for that. And very hard work on that. Achha. Now, in the 1990s, the normal discussions used to be that there's a very big problem. There are several kinds of media of instruction. There are several kinds of systems of schooling and so on and so forth, etc. And therefore, there should be, in the name of equity, there should be one. The thought is not wrong. That, yes, in the name of equity, as far as possible, all children should get equal chances. इसमें कोई गलत चीज़ नहीं है. The politics of it and the economics of it at the moment, however, is different. I'll come to that. वो ये है कि, you see, the reasons for inequality is, as Shahnaz, Wazir Ali Sahib just said, जैसे उन्होंने अभी कहा, that the state is not looking after its schools. Am I right when I say that? The state is not spending enough money, not putting it enough quality in the schools. So वो तो नहीं change हुआ ना. That hasn't, actually, it used to hover around 2% of the GNP. That has come down. It hasn't gone up. It isn't even the same. So that has not changed. Schools have not improved. The state schools have not improved. What has happened is the medium of instruction actually also remains the same. वो जो अलग-अलग थी, वो अब भी अलग-अलग है. हुआ क्या? हुआ ये कि मदारिस की कुछ चीज़ें, मदारिस की नहीं, मकतब की, उसकी कुछ चीज़ें उठा के यहाँ डाल दी. And so the name of the sacred is used actually for political purposes, to earn mileage, political mileage. So what happens now is that there are the same kind of elite schools, the same kind of state schools, government schools, teaching in Urdu and Sindhi, but not in the other languages of Pakistan, and the same kind of teachers as before. The difference now is that there are some things which used to be taught in the maktab. They have been made compulsory in the other schools. Now, why is that a bad thing? Why should that be, मतलब अच्छी बात है? क्यों ना करें? नहीं, देखिए, intention बहुत अच्छा है. Religion gives a lot of hope to people. उसकी बात नहीं हो रही. बात interpretation की हो रही है. The person who is actually teaching the child, वो interpret कर रहा है text को. Text अपने आप को खुद interpret नहीं कर रहा है. Just look at the word fitna. Now, fitna in Arabic, it is a great ordeal, melting point, melting, which means metaphorically some great ordeal. को बहुत बड़ी मुसीबत, that's fitna. How do you interpret this? It comes so many Quranic ayat, you have to fight against fitna till fitna finishes. ये तो है ना. If you define fitna as that kind of treatment, discrimination, which was given to the early Muslim society, they were thrown out of their homes, etc. Well, that has finished. So that fitna has finished. That means the war has come to an end. ठीक है ना? If you interpret fitna as unbelief itself, well, that has not finished. Therefore, the war goes on forever. Look, it has made a tremendous difference, just the interpretation. अब क्लास में आपके जो इंटरप्रेट कर रहे हैं साहब या साहिबा, उन्होंने क्या इंटरप्रिटेशन दी है, ये तो मैंने एक लफ्ज़ दिया ना, उसकी इंटरप्रिटेशन क्या दी? उन्होंने क्या बच्चों को ये बताया कि हमें जिहाद हमेशा के लिए जारी और सारी रहेगा, या उन्होंने ये कहा कि भाई जहाँ ऑपरेशन हो किसी के ऊपर तो ऑपरेस पार्टी जो है वो अपने वो कर सकती है रेजिस्ट, क्योंकि ऑपरेशन बुरी चीज़ है, कहीं भी हो और कोई भी करे तो फिर तो ठीक है, फिर तो आप ऑपरेस पार्टी के साथ हैं, आप हर जालिम के ख़िलाफ़ हैं, फिर तो वो तो बड़ी अच्छी होगी, रेजिस्टेंस में लेसन है. बट द पॉइंट इज़ इट इज़ अप टू दैट वी हैव sort of made it possible for people, for young students to be more indoctrinated. And when that happens, we shouldn't be very surprised if many of them turn towards the appeals from the extreme radicals, let's call them, Islamist radicals, militants. तो वो भी तो फिर होगा ना, हमने खुद वो क्रिएट किया है. तो SNC के नाम, अच्छा दूसरों ने क्या किया, एलीट इंग्लिश स्कूल्स ने, उन्होंने वो टेक्स्ट उन्होंने कहा ठीक है, उसके लिए एक दो लोग हैं, एक्चुअली वो जो पढ़ा रहे थे पहले वो पढ़ाते हैं, क्योंकि एग्जामिनेशन तो उसमें होगा, वो तो ओ लेवल का होगा. लिहाजा दिस हैज़ बीन politically mobilized as something which appears appealing but actually leads to more of the wrong kind of indoctrination. Islamization भी उसको लोग कहते हैं, indoctrination, the possibility of a further swerve towards the right, the possibility of even more militant expansion in the minds of the pupils. ये उसका नतीजा हुआ है, फ़ायदा कोई नहीं हुआ.
Thanks, Dr. Tariq Rahman. I think it's very important to understand that in the name of single national curriculum, because there is a difference between curriculum and textbooks, but in the name of single national curriculum, similar or same textbooks are being prescribed. Salma, I think before I go to Salma, let's go to Madam Shahnaz Wazir Ali. As I shared with you the policies, starting those documents from 1947, and last comprehensive education policy stopped 2009. After that, we don't find any single comprehensive, there are some documents, but no policy. That is very, surprising. So let me ask Shahnaz Wazir Ali, what happened during those times that, we don't find any new education policy after that?
जी शाहिद साहब, 2009 के बाद तो कोई और नई पॉलिसी नहीं आई, और मेरे ख्याल में काफ़ी हद तक इसकी वजह ये है कि कई पॉलिसीज़ पहले से आ चुकी थीं, तो कौम तो ये पूछती है कि उन पॉलिसीज़ का क्या फ़ायदा हुआ. अभी तक हमारा तालीमी निज़ाम जो है वो काफ़ी हद तक सब स्टैंडर्ड है, सारे बच्चे स्कूलों में नहीं हैं, मयारी तालीम नहीं दी जा रही, और वो रकम नहीं मुख्तस की जा रही हमारे बजट्स में जो कि हुकूमत को करनी चाहिए. ना हायर एजुकेशन सेक्टर, ना कॉलेजेस, ना वोकेशनल टेक्निकल इंस्टीट्यूट्स को सही तरीके से संभाला गया है. So this is a big question that looms over any discussion on policies, that will another policy make a big difference? एक चीज़ हुई 2009 के बाद, उसकी पॉलिसी के बाद, जो 2010 में 18वीं तरमीम आई, जिसके ज़रिए डेवोल्यूशन हुई सूबों को तालीम के सेक्टर की. Many subjects were transferred to the provinces as a consequence of the 18th Amendment, and education, health, and some others also were included. In fact, most subjects were transferred to the provinces. तो जब ये मुंतकली हुई सूबों की तरफ, तो लोगों ने और हुकूमतों ने ये कहा, सूबों की हुकूमतों ने, कि हम अपनी पॉलिसी बनाएंगे. फेडरल गवर्नमेंट का कोई हक नहीं है कि वो एक पॉलिसी बनाए पूरे मुल्क के लिए. तो इस वक्त 2010 के बाद कई साल गुजरते गए और अब सिंध हुकूमत ने तो अपनी एजुकेशन पॉलिसी एक बनाई है, लेकिन एक जामिया तौर पे कोई पॉलिसी पाकिस्तान के लिए सामने नहीं आई. But an educational framework was developed, and the educational framework laid out what should be the objectives, what should be the main learning objectives for children in primary, middle, secondary. It also laid out what subjects should be taught. तो सारे मजमून वगैरह जो हैं स्कूलों में वो तो तय पा गए कि प्राइमरी, सेकेंडरी, हायर सेकेंडरी में क्या पढ़ाया जाएगा. लेकिन ये जो एक बड़ा सवाल है कि किस ज़बान में पढ़ाया जाएगा, वो अभी तक डिबेट चल रही है. और वो ज़ुबैदा साहिबा मेरे ख़्याल में बहुत बेहतर तरीके से जानती हैं, और बहुत सारे यहाँ पे और भी तालीम से ताल्लुक़ रखने वाले लोग तशरीफ़ फरमा हैं, कि ज़बान, मादरी ज़बान में ही बच्चा सबसे बेहतर समझता है. ये तो this is evidence, there is evidence for this. How does the brain learn? What is the cognitive learning cycle and sequence? It is in your mother tongue. मादरी ज़बान सिंध में तो पढ़ाई जाती है सिंधी, उसके बाद बच्चा सिंध में तीसरी जमात के बाद उर्दू सीखता है, साथ साथ कुरान शरीफ और इस्लामियात जो कि उसको अरबी पढ़नी पड़ती है, और छठी जमात में वो इंग्लिश स्कूल में कहा जाता है कि पब्लिक स्कूल्स में भी इंग्लिश पढ़ाई जाएगी. तो यानी कि 4 ज़बानों के साथ एक बच्चे ने अपनी पूरी तालीम का सफ़र जो है वो पूरा करना है. पंजाब में पंजाबी तो नहीं पढ़ाई जाती, उर्दू ही पढ़ाई जाती है. हालांकि पंजाब में भी बहुत सारे बच्चे ऐसे हैं जिनकी मादरी ज़बान, यकीनन पंजाब में तो हर पंजाबी की मादरी ज़बान पंजाबी है. खैबर पख्तूनख्वा में कई स्कूल हैं जहाँ पे पहले पश्तो पढ़ाई जाती थी, अभी भी क्लासेस 1, 2 और 3 में कई जगहों में पश्तो में पढ़ाया जाता है. लेकिन ये एक डिबेट और कंट्रोवर्सी अभी तक चल रही है, व्हाट शुड बी द लैंग्वेज ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन. यहाँ पे जल्दी से मैं सिर्फ निशानदेही करना चाहती हूँ कि सिटीजन्स फाउंडेशन ने इस पर बहुत अच्छा काम किया है. रियाज कामलानी साहब, जिनकी मैं बड़ी इज़्ज़त करती हूँ, he has defined and elaborated the exact concept of the language ladder. What do you teach as the first language, and for how long? How do you transition to the second language? And then finally, how do you transition into English? It's a well-defined arrangement, and that's the way they have built their curriculum.
बहुत शुक्रिया Dr. Shahnaz Wazir. Coming back to Salma, I think last time responding to my question, you talked about teachers' central position in terms of quality. When we talk about the several common places of curriculum, on one hand there are students, then teaching materials, then assessment system, then school milieu, but in the center is teacher. So if we want to improve the quality of education, we need to improve the quality of teacher. And for that, we have teacher education programs in Pakistan. What do you think is the status of teacher education in Pakistan? What are the challenges and what are the possibilities?
Thank you, Shahid Saab. So let me start by giving some quick statistics on the status of teachers right now. Of course, lots of statistics I could quote here, but एक छोटा सा आपको recent एक बताती हूँ from 2021. जिसमें सिंध हुकूमत ने 46,000 पोस्ट्स के अगेंस्ट वैकेंसीज अनाउंस की. 46,000 वैकेंसीज के अगेंस्ट 162,000 एप्लीकेशंस आई, जिनके लिए सिर्फ एंड यू जस्ट नीडेड 14 years of education, which is a 2-year undergraduate degree, BCom, BA, जो आपके पुराने स्कीम्स के अंडर था. इन सारे कैंडिडेट्स को एक मिडिल स्कूल एग्ज़ाम से गुजारा गया. ठीक है, सो हमारा जो कौमी निसाब है उससे पहले से 8वीं जमात का कंटेंट था इस एग्ज़ाम में. सोचिए कितने कैंडिडेट्स ने इस एग्ज़ाम को पास किया. It was less than 1%, less than 1%. So I think nothing quite shocks as a statistic like that. And I think that points to a greater problem, which is कि हमारे माशरे में टीचर बन कौन रहा है, right? Because I hope everybody in the crowd would agree with me that teaching एक बुनियादी पेशा है, सारे बाकी पेशों के जड़ पे है. So doctors and engineers, जो भी professions बैठे हैं आज audience में, आप सब एक teachers से groom होके develop होके यहाँ तक आए हैं. So अगर आप लोगों को वो opportunities नहीं मिलती of good teachers, you wouldn't be where you are, right? And of course the flip is true as well, right? As Farid also mentioned, ये हमारे students का it's not their fault that the education system is broken, that they do not get access to high quality teachers, and hence their potential remains stunted for their entire life. So coming back now to what needs to be done about this, I won't sit here and paint a rosy picture, because the nature of reform and change is a complex animal. Lots of things need to be done and they need to happen in tandem, right? So for example, if we just say that GDP बढ़ाने से हमारा निज़ाम जो है वो ठीक हो जाएगा, I don't think that's true. I mean, there are chronic cases of misgovernance. You can't keep throwing money at this problem and expect that money to be spent efficiently and in the right places. So same too with education. Of course, there is a case of needing to pay teachers better. For example, अगर हम कह रहे हैं कि teachers को doctors का status देना है, तो सिर्फ status मतलब the remuneration has to be commensurate as well to achieve that status. फिर आपकी बात है around recruitment, right? So मैंने अभी आप लोगों को जो बताई थी 2021 की बात, सवाल तो पहले ये उठता है कि हम BCom और BA को teaching profession में ला भी क्यों रहे हैं? Why are we not limiting? I mean, it's equivalent of you saying कि I will let an MBA graduate become a doctor, right? Seems so outrageous, right? Why? It seems so outrageous for medicine, but somehow in teaching we're all okay with this. So, and I understand it's complex, demand supply के बड़े issues हैं, but at least, you know, in our policy, in our planning, we need to think of strategies कि, you know, 5 years or 10 years down the road, we're only accepting teachers who are professionally qualified and who know how to teach, who are not guessing their way into the classroom. तीसरी चीज़ है, of course, teacher preparation. This is very important, right? Because they are, of course, a big lever that you're pulling in teacher quality. I represent a teacher education institution. We're working in the public sector to raise the quality of teacher quality in the government teaching workforce. So जब तक ये नहीं बेहतर करेंगे, उस वक्त तक आपके अच्छे talented youth आएगी भी नहीं इस तरफ, because सिर्फ B.Ed degree offer करना हो तो बहुत लोग offer कर रहे हैं. फरीद ने बात की with this mushrooming of universities. Lots, I mean, you can technically even buy a B.Ed degree. That's a story for another day. Teachers need career ladders, right? And same as any profession, right? They're looking at 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, where am I? And then work environments. As long as government, if I ask all of you to close your eyes and imagine a government school, what comes to mind? Is it a place that you would like to go work? No, right? So if I'm graduating at the top of my intermediate class, and I know the world is my oyster and I can go into any profession, मतलब सिर्फ जो एक पागल दीवाना हो, जिसका इतना दिली जज्बा हो कि उसने तालीम के लिए कुछ करना है, वो एक अनोखा इस तरफ आए. Otherwise, the bulk of people are not going to sign up for a career in government teaching. So I would like to end on a good note. There is a lot happening, even in Sindh, और Sindh अक्सर बहुत गालियाँ खाता है for being, you know, not as progressive or not as advanced as other state education systems. But there's a very important development that's happened in Sindh, and I'm pleased that Farid is here with me. So IED, Durbin, and the government of Sindh, as well as other notable educationists, we've all rallied together, and very recently we managed to push through a very important policy of licensing in Sindh. What this basically means is कि अब licensing introduce हो रहा है as an exam to enter into the teaching profession. And you cannot take this licensing exam unless you actually hold a B.Ed degree. So this is moving away from the old practice that if you have a BA or a BCom or any other degree, BS, तो आप आके teacher बन जाओ. अब हम कह रहे हैं कि नहीं, teacher बनने के लिए you have to have a B.Ed. And to level the playing field, like Farid said, because not all B.Eds are the same in our education system, तो एक licensing exam introduce किया है, जो सिर्फ आपके मतलब दो skills and knowledge को evaluate करेगा, जो मखसूस teacher के पास होना चाहिए. So इससे हमारी बड़ी उम्मीद है कि teachers का जो एक status है वो elevate होगा, रुतबा ऊपर जाएगा, तो ही आपकी talent जो है वो teaching के profession की तरफ आएगी. Thank you, Shahid.
Thanks very much. I don't know what to do because we have, how many, 13 minutes left? And we have two persons, Farid and Dr. Tariq Rahman, because I wanted to have some questions as well. What should we do? I think both of them are very generous people. They said questions. So I would request you to please raise your hand, introduce yourself, be very precise and nominate the person who should be responding to your question. And let's start from here. Mike, please. Here, first row. Yeah. Can you stand up so that?
I prefer to sit.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. My question is about the standard of higher education in Pakistan. Dr. Rahman introduced tremendous reforms in the sector, but we don't see the outcome of that after something like 20 years. I was recently in conversation with a group of IBA graduates, not recently, but this was the time when there was a controversy about the appointment of the finance minister and his rejection on religious grounds. So this group of IBA graduates who should have known about the Washington consensus and all of those concerns, it was as if the media was their teacher. And it had only trained them to thrive on drama and conspiracy. They weren't able to academically gauge what was going on and what was the issue that...
Okay, thanks very much. As I said, please try to be short. And I will ask Dr. Tariq Rahman to very quickly respond to that.
I didn't understand the question. It is about higher education? Quality. Okay. Right, in that case, yes. Now look, if you have over 240 universities, you cannot have quality. That is not possible. You can have quality if you have two research universities. There are several things demanded of a university. First, it is assumed that every university is going to produce an Einstein. They will do original and significant research. Second, that they will teach extremely well, and they're going to give skills and knowledge to students which is relevant for their personal lives and for the society. And third, they are also going to somehow contribute to society, etc. Now, this is impossible. It is possible for a country like Pakistan to have only two research universities, no more. Research universities there can be so many people who can be employed over there, and they will do, the faculty will produce excellent research. They will not have much of a teaching load. It is possible you'll have to spend more money on those universities, that is true, but more than two, I don't think so. The rest of them can be something like the kind of teaching universities we used to have, Karachi University and, and Punjab University and so on, etc., in which the research requirement has to be low. Let's be realistic. We have a sword hanging on everybody's head. You are in a small place and you just, poach from each other's papers, and you have friends who are going to help you, and you produce PhDs and all that, which is all fake. So you should have, those should be, yes, I know people aspire for a degree giving institution in their locality. Good, you have university colleges. There is no need to pretend they are research universities. They can produce good teaching, but there's no need for that. We'll have something better than it.
Thanks very much, because there are so many hands. Yeah, please.
Secondly, it was 0.43% who qualified. Secondly, मेरा जो question है, मतलब जब तक private sector इतना काम कर रहे थे सालों में private sector ने काम किया है, तो हम strong policies के साथ tender system क्यों नहीं वो करते थे?
Which system?
Tender system, यानी school के कराची schools, पेशावर, मतलब जितने भी cities हैं, उनके tenders निकाल दिए जाएं कि इतने tenders हैं और इसको bid किया जाए और उसके against strong policies और उसके साथ जो है ना education को किया जाए. For example, जैसे airports और बाकी सारी चीज़ों के
Okay.
tenders दिए जाते हैं.
It's not a question, it's a suggestion, and we'll go to, yeah. I think one by one. Two of you can. Just a minute.
My name is Dr. Jaypal. I am the member of the National Commission for Minorities. I have a question from two ladies. One, Shahnaz Wazir Ali was associated so many times in the People's Party. But I see in the Sindh, the merit of the education is always going deteriorated. And the 50% pass, they are taking the teachers. And I do not see the Benazir Bhutto even. Yeah, Bilawal Bhutto is going to visit the universities and they are making the planning. And I do feel the deficiency here in your panel. There is no, from the government education side, there should be a secretary or any director. That should be the part of the also panel. So how you feel the government is failed in the policies, and the Shahnaz Wazir Ali also can reply that there is no interest in the government.
Dr. Shahnaz, very short and crisp.
Very quickly, Dr. Jaypal, you heard Dr. Farid Panjwani. The increasing number of universities has made it really problematic for quality to be ensured at every university. That's the first thing. It's not just in Sindh, it's across Pakistan. There are 247 universities. We don't have enough PhDs to teach there. But I will say this, that I don't want to say everything is negative at all. There are some exceptional things that Sindh government has done. It has recognized that good management is needed for its schools, and it is contracting out schools on a good management arrangement. The other thing is that if you visited IBA Sakhar and you visited some of the universities in interior Sindh, you will see that there are some really very, very good university facilities that have been provided. And the last point is that with a population growth rate of 2.5 in Pakistan or 2.4, I don't think any country, if it had a population growth rate of this, could continue to provide the schools, colleges, universities, and teachers that are required.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Shahnaz, yes? Mike.
My question is to Madam Shahnaz principally, and any other can reply, that हम 47 में इंडिया और पाकिस्तान दो इकट्ठे आज़ाद हुए या अलग हुए, उन्होंने अपने स्कूल सिस्टम को वहाँ से सारे बाकी सिस्टम्स ख़त्म करके ओ लेवल्स ए लेवल्स सब ख़त्म करके मैट्रिक और इंटर जो भी क्लास 12 तक था पूरे इंडिया में वो उन्होंने कर दिया, और उनका एजुकेशन सिस्टम या उनकी एटलीस्ट जो प्रोडक्ट है वो इस वक्त इंटरनेशनली रिकग्नाइज्ड है. हमारे पास इस वक्त भी हम हर दूसरे साल हमारे पास कोई नया सिस्टम आ जाता है. फर्स्ट ईयर इंटर वाला सिस्टम भी है, ओ ए लेवल्स भी है, फिर अब IB डिप्लोमा आ गया है, डिफरेंट बोर्ड्स आ गए हैं. तो बिफोर गोइंग टू सिंगल कैरिकुलम हम एक सिंगल सिस्टम एटलीस्ट पूरे मुल्क में क्यों नहीं कर देते कि एटलीस्ट सारे बच्चों को पता हो कि सब ने मैट्रिक देना है, सब ने इंटर देना है.
Okay, thank you.
उसी तरह से
जी, इसका मुख्तसर जवाब मैंने पहले अपने कमेंट्स में दे दिया था कि जब तक पावर एलीट पाकिस्तान में इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ फॉर ऑल, यकसा मौक़े सबके लिए नहीं फराहम करेगी तो आपके पास उस किस्म की डेवलपमेंट नहीं होगी एजुकेशन सेक्टर में. ये बात दुरुस्त है कि इन इंडिया देयर इज़ नो O and A level system. There may be very, very 0.001% schools, but they have made their own metric, what is the equivalent of a matriculation system, a very well established और बड़ा अच्छा निसाब पर मबनी और सही तरीके से वो चलाते हैं. और दूसरी बात इंडिया में ये है कि वो नहीं फोर्स करते सब लोगों को. It's not a theocratic state, and it does not force certain types of ideological and theocratic content into the curriculum. It is built specifically just on skills. Science, technology, history, geography, language skills पर उन्होंने अपना निसाब बनाया हुआ है. तो पाकिस्तान को मेरे ख्याल में बहुत सारी चीज़ें सीखनी है, लेकिन पाकिस्तान में भी बहुत सारे चिराग इस वक्त रोशन हैं एजुकेशन सेक्टर में. बहुत सारी नॉन गवर्नमेंटल ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस भी काम कर रही हैं. कई बिजनेस वालों ने भी स्कूल्स अडॉप्ट किए हुए हैं. सिंध एजुकेशन फाउंडेशन है, पंजाब एजुकेशन फाउंडेशन है. तो कई जगह बेहतर तरीके से ये निज़ाम चलाया जा रहा है. But yes, we have an elite system. The O and A level schools are for the elite classes of Pakistan, so are the garrison schools in the army cantonments. And so are the schools in Islamabad, which get 10 times more budget than the ordinary primary school gets in the rest of the country. So it is a completely elite control system of education everywhere.
I'd like to further clarify the position about India. देखिए, India does not have O-level, A-level examined by England, but it does have English medium schools. It has Hindi medium schools and Marathi medium schools and Punjabi medium schools and so on. And the fact is that the Indian, English medium schools, etc., are actually as elitist as ours. There are elitist colleges, in some of which getting admission is extremely difficult. There are IITs, which are as difficult to get, to go into as a very good American university. And lastly, there have been 2 attempts at changing the syllabi and making them more Hindu nationalist oriented. The first one was when the BJP first came to power. That was reversed. The other one was last year, and that has not been reversed. And this one is changing syllabi. Arundhati Rai has written about it, etc. India's, at the moment, the BJP government is actually doing something which the Nazi government did earlier. Thank you.
Yes, I'm Yasmin Farid, and I'm glad to be with you all as experts. My only question is, of course, it's a bad scenario right now, not very hopeful, with some light somewhere. But what hope would you give to parents of young children and to youth of today? And if you could give some quick suggestion for the government, if you were to be asked. So I would just request that, to give some hope and some plan or suggestion. So it could be all of you or just few of you.
Well, हम जो एजुकेशनिस्ट होते हैं, हम तो होप के साथ ही रहते हैं, क्योंकि इसके बगैर तो हमारी ज़िंदगी नहीं होती. तो आई थिंक कि सबसे बड़ी होप ये है कि जो बच्चे, जो यूथ हैं, जब आप उनसे मिलते हैं, यू सी देयर ब्राइटनेस डिस्पाइट ऑल दी इश्यूज़ एंड चैलेंजेस. मगर 2 चीज़ें सिर्फ मैं कहूँगा कि अगर हम करें तो मुझे लगता है कि बहुत अच्छा काम कर सकते हैं. एक ये कि प्राइमरी स्कूल्स में, अर्ली एज और प्राइमरी स्कूल्स में लैंग्वेजेस पे फोकस करें सबसे ज़्यादा. चाहे उर्दू, इंग्लिश, कम से कम 2 लैंग्वेजेस अगर बच्चों को आ जाए, या जो भी उनकी मदर टंग हो वो अच्छी तरह से आ जाए. उसके बाद उनको अगर आप टेक्नोलॉजी प्रोवाइड करें, वो आज आप एक 10 साल के बच्चे को देखें जिसको अगर इंटरनेट यूज़ करना आता है, वो सेल्फ डायरेक्टेड अपने आप को खुद ही बहुत सारी चीज़ें सिखा सकता है. आपकी टीचर की डेफिशिएंसी भी उसमें कवर हो सकती है, स्कूल्स की भी. तो अगर हम बच्चों को टेक्नोलॉजी और लैंग्वेज, ये 2 चीज़ें दें 10 साल की एज तक, और उसके बाद वो खुद अपने आप को सेल्फ डायरेक्टेड लेके जा सकते हैं. एंड यू वुड फाइंड मैनी अदर थिंग्स. सेकेंडली, आई थिंक वोकेशनल एजुकेशन इज़ वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस, क्योंकि हमारे पास, जैसे आपने कहा, कि मुमकिन ही नहीं है कि इतने लोगों को हम जॉब्स दे सकें एक सरकारी या प्राइवेट सेक्टर में, जब तक कि वो खुद एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप ना हो. दैट्स what I would say.
Yeah. I know that there are so many questions, but they are showing me that the time is up. Let me thank all of you and our panelists. I think we discussed some very important issues like access, like quality, like relevance. like single national curriculum, like medium of instruction, etc. Thanks very much for asking some wonderful questions. Thank you.